Welcome to today's Explainer. We're diving into something I find absolutely fascinating. We're going to map out these massive, government-backed structural changes that are actively shaping all of our futures right now. I mean, from looking up at the night sky to sitting down at the kitchen table and looking at your monthly budget, these investments are fundamentally altering the landscape around us.
So what do the moon and your medicine cabinet have in common in 2026? Kind of sounds like a trick question, right? But the crazy answer is that right now, in this exact moment, unprecedented investments are transforming both the vastness of the cosmos and the very intimate details of our daily lives. We're talking about billions of dollars being deployed to redefine what's possible in deep space exploration, while at the exact same time redefining how we manage personal healthcare costs right here on Earth.
Okay, let's dive right into this. We're going on a macro to micro journey today. First up, we'll look at the return to the moon. Then we'll cover infrastructure and global accords. Third, we've got Medicare Part D 2026. And finally, rural business development grants.
All right, Part 1, Return to the Moon, specifically the Artemis program.
To really wrap your head around this massive lunar exploration program, you just have to look at the numbers. $93 billion. Let that sink in. That is the staggering estimated cost of the NASA-led Artemis program from 2012 all the way up to 2025. And you know, what's really fascinating about this is its enduring bipartisan backing. It was established in 2017 and then enthusiastically endorsed right into the 2020s. And the whole shebang is designed to lay the groundwork for long-term sustainability and eventually human missions to Mars.
So, let's trace the chronological roadmap that actually gets us there. It all kicked off in 2022 with Artemis I, which was an uncrewed test flight that successfully sent the Orion spacecraft into a lunar orbit. Fast forward to April 2026, and we get Artemis II. This was basically an epic road trip around the moon, a crewed flyby that safely splashed down in the Pacific. Looking ahead, 2027 brings us Artemis III for orbital landing system tests. Then, the truly monumental Artemis IV in early 2028, which is planned to be the very first crewed lunar landing since 1972. And by late 2028, Artemis V is scheduled to actually begin building a permanent moon base. I mean, no way, right?
And this brilliantly illustrates the sheer historic weight of what we're achieving right now. During their lunar flyby in April 2026, the Artemis II crew actually broke the Apollo 13 record for the greatest human distance from Earth. They reached a maximum distance of over 252,000 miles. And the crew themselves totally made history. Victor Glover became the first person of color, Christina Koch the first woman, and Jeremy Hansen the first non-US citizen to travel beyond low Earth orbit.
Moving on to Section 2, Infrastructure and Global Accords. This is where we get into the hardware and the diplomacy.
Now, you don't just point a rocket at the sky and hope for the best, right? Building this requires incredibly complex hardware. Notice how these missions rely on a mix of government-built legacy systems, like NASA's Primary Space Launch System, and new private spaceflight contracts. For actually touching down on the lunar surface, they're utilizing SpaceX's Starship and Blue Origin's Blue Moon as human landing systems. It's really a massive collaborative web of technology.
But that collaboration isn't just corporate, it is highly international. 68. As of June 2026, 68 countries across Europe, Asia, South America, North America, Africa, and Oceania have signed the Artemis Accords. Basically, this is a framework grounded in the 1967 United Nations Outer Space Treaty. It's a mutual agreement to ensure the civil exploration and peaceful use of the Moon and Mars. It just goes to show that the frontier of space is really as much about global cooperation as it is about rocket fuel.
Okay, so we've spent the first part of this explainer gazing up at the stars, looking at billions of dollars spent miles and miles above our heads. But what about our frontiers closer to home? Let's dramatically pivot our focus from the vacuum of space right down to your local pharmacy, because massive, nationwide societal shifts are happening there too.
Bringing us to Section 3, Medicare Part D 2026, and the sweeping changes to healthcare costs.
Under the Inflation Reduction Act, sweeping changes are hitting Medicare Part D to make drug costs much more predictable. For the 2026 plan year, there is a hard $2,100 limit on out-of-pocket prescription drug costs. Now, what's absolutely crucial to understand is that this cap covers your deductibles, your copays, and your coinsurance. Once you hit that $2,100 limit, the plan covers 100% for the rest of the year. But, and this is a big but, it is vital to note that this cap does not include your monthly premiums, so keep that in mind.
Drilling down just a bit further into those costs, the maximum deductible for a Part D plan in 2026 is capped at $615. This is incredibly important because it creates predictable, manageable budgets for seniors. You know exactly what your maximum liability is before that expanded coverage kicks in. It takes a lot of the guesswork out.
There's also an evolution in how people can actually go about paying these costs. Take the Medicare prescription payment plan. This allows members to spread the cost of their prescription drugs over the entire plan year rather than paying in full right at the pharmacy counter. Now, in 2025, members had to manually enroll in this, but new for 2026, participation in this plan will automatically renew from year to year unless you decide to opt out. Now, to be clear, it doesn't reduce the total cost of the drugs, but spreading those payments out automatically makes them far, far easier to manage month to month.
In closing out this healthcare frontier, Medicare members now get vital vaccines completely free. Any vaccine recommended by the Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices is covered at 100%. That means absolutely no deductible and no copay at all for those specific preventative treatments. It's a real game changer for preventative care.
All right, our final stop, Section 4, Rural Business Development Grants, Funding the Local Frontier.
We're zooming all the way into the hyper-local level now. So the crucial point here is that while we so often focus on those grand, headline-grabbing frontiers, like a lunar base or a nationwide prescription cap, federal mandates also rigorously target local economies. Funds are allocated specifically to advance rural business priorities. This ensures that the big structural investments shaping 2026 are felt right in the small businesses that form the absolute backbone of our rural communities.
Well, we have covered a staggering amount of ground in today's Explainer. I mean, from a $93 billion effort to put boots back on the moon, to a $2,100 cap that will completely change how millions pay for their medicine, right down to the grants building up our rural towns, these are the structural changes defining our era. So I'll leave you with this thought. From lunar bases to prescription caps, which of these 2026 frontiers will impact your future the most? Thank you so much for joining me today. Keep exploring, and as always, keep asking questions.